Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
India's path towards achieving economic prowess demands efforts on multiple fronts. However, the most fundamental aspect of driving this change lies in ideas that possess the power to transform the entire economic landscape. The next panel discussion is about these ideas and perspectives that aim to foster India's economic development and also help build a growth mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my fellow panelists for the discussion. Neeraj Jain, co-founder Solar Square Energy. Shailesh Dhuri, CEO Decimal Point Analytics. And Sanjeev Prabhu, MD Lismot Engines. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This is the panel I was talking about, that everyone who spoke before us has done such a beautiful job of already pointing out what are the needs, what are the challenges, a SWOT analysis of sorts of what is happening in the industry, in Indian economy, while we stay very robust and while we are very hopeful and we are also resilient, but we are talking about a larger picture where we have more potential and how to harness that, how to scale our businesses, etc. And we are also talking about a growth mindset. Now, that's a word that is typically thrown at us at every town hall, board meeting. Growth mindset hona chahiye. Right? But what is growth mindset? A lot of people wonder. I mean, you know, there are some of those words that we very fancily use, agility, resilience in business. But a lot of times, one needs to actually break that down to understand what exactly is growth mindset. So first, may I start with you? Is there something called a growth mindset? How is it developed? Are people involved in developing it? Is work culture involved? What is it that takes to build a great growth mindset?
It's a very intelligent question.
I know.
And actually, I come from a blue-collar industry. We run a business which is into industrial furnaces. So I deal with workers, technicians, supervisors, engineers, and a different mindset.
True.
When I started my career 35 years back, a refinery used to be built in, say, 5 to 6 years. Now it's built in 2 years. So when you're talking of growth mindset, it's just about that change. Is it possible? So it starts with that very fact that we have to be agile. We have to be ready to understand that you have to think out of the box. Now is the time where, because of internet, because of knowledge which has changed from what probably we grew up as young engineers, information is available, technology is available. So are we willing to change? So I've seen a big change in my industry where, say, post-COVID, you know, we are refractory contractors for all industries.
Right.
So there was no such thing as one contractor being available for operation and maintenance. You had an electrical contractor, mechanical, civil, all such contractors maintaining a plant. Now what happened in COVID was that people were not available to come, and therefore the maintenance of the plants suffered. And there came this new idea, do we have one company who can handle all of this? As a company, we saw that. So again, we're talking about growth mindset, risk and reward. We understood the risks is collecting people, getting all the knowledge on one side, and the reward is there. And today we are handling at least 3-4 companies, we are handling plants. So growth mindset is absolutely, first of all, it comes from within. And then, of course, it's all about coaching. There are a lot of coaching available to allow you to think differently.
Wonderful. Before we move ahead, we also have another member joining us on the panel. Mr. Javeri. All right, Riddhi Javeri is joining us. She was right here. Riddhi. Welcome, Riddhi. Please come.
Not Mr.
Not at all. All right, we were talking about the growth mindset, Riddhi, and now that you are here, we will put the question to you, which is, do you really think we need coaching in developing a growth mindset? And when we especially talk about SMEs and MSMEs, there is a lot of upskilling that needs to be done for them to scale up, for them to pivot from where they are. How then can they develop this agility?
Absolutely. I think we are talking about this 10 trillion economy dream, which is absolutely doable. And that is going to come from a growth mindset, right? That's the fundamental. And that is going to not only come from the big companies that are driving the growth in India, but also from the SMEs, be it the small companies or the large companies. This growth mindset is what is going to drive the economy going forward. And if we have to reach from 3.7 to 10, that's what's going to drive. And like you rightly said, coaching is key in this. And especially in companies of our size, you know, we see that there is apprehension to innovation. There is apprehension to invest in innovation.
Right.
You know, to break that mindset of conventional way of doing things. How do we improve? That coaching has to be given to everybody top down in the organization. I think that's going to be very critical.
Intern laboratories, what is the vision there, and how do you interact with the large audience?
So we're into pharmaceutical manufacturing, right? It is the epicenter of growth within the country. COVID has shown the world that our industry has given medicines to almost every country in the world. It's really about now driving the growth with research and development.
Right.
I think India has been very strong in developing the raw materials, the generic APIs, but where we now need to go is to not do just incremental innovation, but to go for, you know, inventing drugs, inventing new products, which are recognized, which are accepted, and which are rewarded. Right? So that is the agenda going forward for our company. Of course, it's going to take a huge journey, but at least in our company, it's like any kind of innovation, but one innovation a year. That's what we need to build that step by step.
Neeraj, with both pharma and with both your industry, solar, we have seen that what was initially believed to have taken a lot of time to scale up has been expedited in the last 4 or 5 years. What has the journey been for you in terms of scaling your business? It's a very fascinating story of founders coming from IIT Mumbai and coming together and building this huge business. What has your experience been in terms of what is now available that is pushing the businesses to scale up, which wasn't available back in the days?
It's a very interesting question, and I'm going to try to speak to the SMEs, founders who are sitting in the back as a fellow SME myself. And I'm probably the youngest in the group here. My apologies, but...
You didn't look this side at all.
But yeah, I'll just speak from my experience in terms of, you know, what does growth mindset look like in action? And the panelist before me, Dr. Sinha from Tata Power, he's my biggest competitor. He described the market size, 26 crore homes. And that is what I'm doing. I'm taking a power plant to these 26 crore homes. And in the history of mankind, this has not happened before, that a homeowner has owned a power plant.
Right.
And what we've been able to do in the last 3 years, we are already probably 50-55% of where Tata Power has reached in the last 3 decades. What we've done as an SME, we found our niche, and in the first 5 years of our journey, we built a profitable, bootstrap, 100 crore company. and we left it behind when we saw our niche that nobody else in this country, at least no organized large industrial house, is going to build for homes. It's very difficult. And what do we do there? So I'll just take 2 minutes to give a background of what that growth mindset looks like. So my average consumer is a middle class homeowner with 10 lakh rupees of family income annually. And this family is going to buy a 2.5 lakh rupee solar plant for their home. This plant, everything paid upfront. The first problem we hit was there are such few companies and products that this homeowner has bought in his life for this ticket size. And for that, you need the trust of a Maruti, of a Tata, of a Bajaj. So we built the best home solar product out there. Then the challenge was, how do you actually deliver on that trust? And how do you sell quality? You know, the market is flooded with low quality, low cost competitors. So we looked for inspiration in a equally boring industry, Michelin tires, they were innovating in the industry. Globally, Michelin was struggling because they were competing against Chinese manufacturers who were undercutting on cost and quality. Michelin just flipped the game. Michelin said, my tires probably run for 50% more at 5% extra cost. I'm going to charge people not for the tire, but for every kilometer. That's what Solar Square did. Rather than charging for the solar plant, now we are charging people for power. Now, how do I do that? It basically made me the largest. It gave us the largest portfolio of power plants in India. Like we are now operating 10,000 power plants across the country. Nobody is doing that in the country. So we look for inspiration from Airbnb, which is, they don't own a single room, but they are the largest vacation stays builder out there. So I think just taking those bold bets out there is probably how that innovation and growth mindset looks like in action.
Wonderful. Big round of applause for that growth mindset in action that we are seeing. Shailesh, I was reading one of your articles, and you write beautifully. And something that struck me, and because, Rohan Bopan also spoke about the 10,000 hours. Yes. And I read something which said 10,000 hours hain, lekin usko dheere dheere kharch karna chahiye. You should be spending those 10,000 hours cautiously. And something that stood out was, do not go into hyper specialization.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by these two things that you spoke about. How can this be related with a growth mindset?
Yes. So I will get example of Rohan only. So Rohan mentioned that he became #1 at the age of 43 by taking the modern medicine and using Iyengar yoga. Had he gone hyper specialization and only focused on the modern medicine, he wouldn't have become #1. Had he just focused on Iyengar yoga, he wouldn't have become #1. See, I run a AI focused company. I run an AI focused company.
Right.
But for the growth path of India, we need to have both the modern technology as well as the wisdom that is there locally put together. And for growth mindset, we need to change certain things in the education system. Our system is such that you should get answer right. That means somebody else should know the answer. That is only when you get the answer right. But if you have growth mindset, nobody knows the answer. That means you are doing trial and error. That means you will fail. And we teach students not to fail. So that needs to change. So this is the reason we need not hyper specialize. The moment you hyper specialize, you become narrow focused. You look at success in that area. For a country of our size, we require people who can think widely.
Let me take the thread forward from there and talk about what do SMEs and MSMEs need at the moment. While we have these challenges with upskilling, etc., when we are talking about growth mindset, we are also talking about these companies to think about what is happening in the world when it comes to tech, Gen AI, data mining, and as one of the panelists before said that, data, of course, is the new one. He also said solar is the new oil in India, is the new currency. But all of this comes at a cost. And a lot of times, SMEs and MSMEs are not able to bear that cost, which is why they cannot scale up. Credit access is another big issue. When you see SMEs and MSMEs, how do you think when we are talking about all of these latest technologies and changing processes and innovating, what are some of the things that can be done to support them?
Yeah. So on the credit access, I think last 8-9 years, the government has done quite a bit to increase the amount of credit access. Now, once the credit is available, for the companies, especially the senior management, needs to change the mindset. Look at the areas where the money is stuck and get the money out. And you need to benchmark yourself to the best in the class. See, we feel proud that India is IT capital of the world. Our export is $300 billion. We employ 4 crore people. But number 2 exporter is Israel, 150 billion and 4 lakh people. So that is, and this applies to everything, not only to IT, even to tomato exports. Our tomato productivity is 1/20th of Netherlands, which is a very cold country. So lot of efficiency gains can be had by just looking at your processes, your systems, and increasing your profitability without investing too much, because somebody else has already traveled that path. You just need to figure out who has traveled that path. And there has been saying that people are wasting time on social media. Actually, if you go and search on social media, many solutions that other people have implemented, you find that, and you can easily implement.
Sanjeev, Lisbon Tangents is a legacy brand since 1978. Their presence in turnkey services has been world-renowned. You're in India since 2010. What is the mindset that you see with SMEs and MSMEs that you're interacting with in the country that is different from that of the outer world where you have other clients? And how do we sort of change that with support from a company like yours?
We are living that journey day in and day out. I come from a background where I worked for the biggest companies like Larsen & Toubro, Punj Lloyd. When I started this company in 2010, our focus was only refractories, because globally we are known to be experts in that field for all industrial furnaces. But one of the big things that we found is Indian mindset of the clients is throwing challenges. So turnaround time, productivity costs, how do you lower it? These are the buzzwords that each client keeps throwing at us. And the only thing that we probably, because we have a lot of engineers, and engineers can think logically, as he rightly said, we used to Google and find out what is that somebody is doing different. For instance, in the aluminum industry, when a aluminum pot goes down, for every day, it's money, 2.5 tons into $100 is the cost. So we started a contract way back in 2013 at 13 days for a pot. Today we do it under 6 days. So what did we do different? We went and searched abroad in our group companies, and we found that we have a robo which can go inside and do major part of dismantling the old refractories, which is at a temperature 150. So I think these are the things, when you talk about growth mindset, is the adaptability.
Correct.
If you ask me 10 years back, I would go with what I learned for 25 years. But had I not changed, somebody else would take up the contract. So necessity is the mother of invention. And we brought in all these things. So there are various examples that we did. Now currently we are looking at, I had to take around 100 odd engineers. That's my plan, because we are growing at 3x and 4x speed. Interestingly, this batch which came out last year was spending 2 years in COVID.
Yeah.
So we went to around 26 colleges across the country, because we work pan-India. And one thing we found, that the engineers who were coming out just did not know the basic questions, because they didn't open the books at all. So what do? We went and turned around the interview and said, looked at abilities, looked at what you want to see differently, what you want to do in life. These are the questions which we as engineers, we came out, were never told. You need a job, you get a salary, that's it. But when we started doing that, we also hired an HR company. We are doing basic skill training. How to present, how to behave in front of the client. All that has been given to this batch. And I'm telling you, they're turning out to be better than some of my old supervisors because they don't have that mindset. ऐसे ही चला है, ऐसे ही होगा. But these young engineers are bringing about change. So another thing we have opened up is suggestions. So these young boys are giving suggestions which we could not think of. So that's all available. The talent is available.
Right.
I think we have to go ahead and empower them and allow them to think. I think that's the secret.
How important is taking feedback from this generation?
Absolutely. I mean, you have touched it. I have this batch. So I decided that I must talk to them one-on-one. So I have a WhatsApp group, which is great. So there only my HR head and me are on that group. And we have encouraged them to talk about the problems they are facing, about what they need to learn better. Is the training been given what was told? And amazingly, because there's nobody else from whom they are reporting, they are open in talking. So had I included my managers, which is typically the other WhatsApp group, which is for project management, there you see the same boys don't talk. So it's a platform in which you give them, they allow. And then we use that very diligently because we don't want to hurt my senior supervisors or engineers who have 20 years experience, but have not seen the human handling part. That's very critical in any organization, and we are facing this. Because we are growing at 3x speed. So we have 700 employees, 300 are new. So how do you gel that? It's very important that communication, we have heard it previously, how to talk transparently, that becomes a very key point.
So growth mindset, as you rightly put, is also about the right people management, honing skills, and of course understanding what this generation is coming with, who are you working with, what are their own aspirations when they come to you and work for you and to work for themselves. To both of you, and I'll start with you, Neeraj, you know, a lot of times we are, you know, I'm just quoting my panelists who came here before. You know, there is legislation before innovation. Siddharth, I think, mentioned that. There are so many versions of India within India when we talk about regulatory frameworks, right? Because you may be working in one city with a different set of state regulations. When you go to another city, it completely changes. And both of you are working in ecosystems where a lot of this regulatory framework needs to be understood, needs to be followed. How difficult or easy is it then to navigate your way through this from your experience going to, of course, the experiences of new companies, MSMEs and SMEs?
So, I had a ringside view to this 1 crore home PM Suryodaya Yojana that was announced just last week. And I'll be very candid, I'm politically incorrect. I didn't vote for this government in the last election. But my God, they won my vote this time. And not because it was favorable to my industry, but they were consulting companies, startups like us. They were willing to accept ideas which were not, like these bureaucrats, 55, 60-year-old, they're willing to accept different ideas which were against their own notion. And the push was coming from the top. Very honestly, the push was coming from the top. Ye karke dikhao. And suddenly the whole machinery, cross-function, I think somebody in the first panel referred to interministerial collaboration. I saw that happen. Yeah, I think it was something, it made me hopeful about our country. So I think everything else be damned. I think there is a lot of hope. I think just getting new blood into the government also is going to help us a lot. But yeah, good days are ahead. And I was not paid for this insert.
Priti, I'll give you the last word on this. When we are talking about now following things like sustainability, we have lofty goals for 2030, we are looking at carbon emissions, we are looking at a lot of ESG reportage. Amidst all of that is technology that is moving at a pace where it's very hard to keep up with a business idea that came to your mind and suddenly that has been already taken by a Gen AI startup or alike. How does one stay ahead of times? How much R&D is required? And in the times to come, what are companies that are going to survive?
No, that's a very pertinent question because especially for companies of our size, right? If there is a thought of innovation or any new way of doing things, either it's already adapted by somebody else or a larger company is going to lap it up. So we have to be in constant awareness and look out for new ways of doing things. And like you rightly pointed out, sustainability, green tech, etc. is the future. And for example, in our company, we are the first company in India to implement something called a continuous manufacturing process for a particular dosage form of formulation, pharmaceutical formulation, which nobody else in India has implemented, and I don't think even in some of the other countries. But this was ahead of time thinking. We didn't need to do it, but we did it with the goal of making ourselves more price competitive, streamlining the process, and at the same time make the process more sustainable. And reduce water consumption, reduce power consumption, right? So when we actually scale up this technology, we will be in a very good position to, supply the product not only in India but across the world. So it's just about, sometimes it's luck as well, to be honest, but it's really honing that idea and really persevering it to see its fruition. Of course, there were a lot of challenges and failures in the journey, but I think really persevering to see the fruition of that idea is going to be critical for companies like us. And then, of course, there will be other companies that will adapt it along the way, but at least, you've brought that to the industry.
Wonderful. On that note, my time's up. The time also says that, but thank you so much for your time and your patience and for the wonderful insights.
Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.